Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm
Good
Kelsey.
evening. I'm Catherine.
And I'm Kevin.
Kevin, we are Abnormal Alabama. And out of this group, I'm probably the most normal there is. But anyway, the first thing that I want to talk about is next weekend, Kevin and I are going to be part of a witches gathering, a virtual event, which that's new to you too, doing it one of these virtual events, Kevin.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But it sounds interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And I think at 9 o'clock, is it 9 or 9:30 on Friday morning, we're going to do a presentation?
It's
Or is it Saturday
9:30 on Saturday morning.
Saturday morning. And we're going to talk about how to get into paranormal research and ghost hunting on a budget, which I know a lot about because I have no money. But Kevin's going to do most of the talking. I know that's hard to believe.
Yeah. I believe that when I see and hear it.
And also, we'll be having a virtual booth where my room's going to be separate than Kevin's room because he gets jealous over his 11 books and he don't want the competition. So he's going to be talking about his books that you can buy autographed copies from him in his booth in the virtual. Look on Abnormal Alabama, and the links are there to get your tickets to this three-day event. On top of that, get my camera adjusted right here. On top of that, he's got a house full of haunted dolls, and I assume you're going to be showing and talking about some of those.
Yeah, I'm gonna put instead of doing the green screen, I've got a banner I'm gonna put up back here and then have some dolls and things. And
all right, so we're going to jazz it all up.
yeah.
And I'll be talking about my book, and it's called Dating the Dead. You can learn about my book at datingthedead.com. And I'm also going to be talking about the wishing machine, which I just sent out one today to a fellow in Arkansas that bought one. And I have sent those literally all over the world now. Germany, Canada, you name it. And they are selling like hotcakes. So if you want to know about the wishing machine, you can go to drkelseywishmaker.com and learn about that. But we're going to be promoting that this weekend. I will not be there Friday evening or Saturday evening because I have a wedding and a rehearsal. Otherwise, you can catch Kevin there just about any time, I'm sure. And Kevin loves selling and talking about his books and his dolls.
Yeah, I'll be there Friday and Saturday, but not Sunday.
There you go. Now, we're going to bring on. Last week, we had a couple on, and we got introduced to the world of past lives. And that was a very popular show. And Kevin got upset about
They're watching right now.
Yeah.
I got upset about what?
Yeah, the couple. How y'all doing? I hope you're doing okay. Enjoyed our visit last weekend. But we got introduced to this lady right here, Michele Saumberfield. And we're going to continue the subject of reincarnation, past lives. Now, I've had a lot of communication with Michele in the last week or so. Kevin, she talks more than you do.
Oh, well.
But anyway, she has a very fascinating story, and thanks to her, I now realize that there's a little competitive thing going on with reincarnated Marilyns around the world. It's amazing how many people claim that they are Marilyn Monroe reincarnated, but thanks to the couple last weekend, this is the Marilyn that we're going to talk to right here. So now the book, let me get her book up here. Right there. Not Just Another Girl, The Myth About Sleeping Nude. So there's going to be a lot of questions about that, as you already know. Michele Saumberfield, welcome to Abnormal Alabama. And you have been around us long enough to understand why we call ourselves abnormal. So welcome to the crew. I assume that given what you're promoting, you're considered a little bit abnormal too.
Always. My whole life.
So get us started. When in your life did you wake up one day and say, ooh, I was Marilyn Monroe. When did that happen? How did that happen?
But you have to understand, for me, it wasn't a big woo because I was a Julie Andrews fan and I liked Patty Duke and I liked Shirley MacLaine. And I wasn't even thinking about Marilyn. So I wasn't a Marilyn fan. But I was raised really Catholic. And I remember one time seeing an advertisement during the 70s for a movie called The Reincarnation of Peter Proud. And I said to my mom, "Reincarnation, what's that?" And she rolled her eyes and she goes, "Oh, other people believe in that. We don't believe in that." And then there was the movie with Barbara Streisand and Yves Montand, where Barbara goes for some counseling and discovers she's had a past life. And eventually she falls in love with her therapist guy. But anyway, my mom and dad are very religious, very Catholic. And I pretty much grew up thinking that if I screwed up too much in life, I was going to go to hell. So I just wasn't thinking about reincarnation. But I always wanted to be an actress. And so I went off to Penn State and I was studying acting. And it was summer 1983, which was the first summer after I went to college and was taking acting classes and directing classes and all of that on a regular basis. And I was in this small play during the summer. So summer 1983 is the summer I turned 19 in July. So just so you know how old I was. I remember I had a small part in a play. It was a really small play. It was like 40 minutes long, one costume. It was a one-time thing in a park, but it was like 11:30 at night. And I was in my parents' kitchen all alone. They were asleep. And I was just talking out loud to myself. Like, I don't know if I was running lines all alone or if I was practicing my diction or what I was doing. But I was just talking to myself basically out loud. And all of a sudden, this really weird tingly feeling just started going up my back, the left side of my back. And I still kept talking. And I'm thinking, oh, this is really strange, but I'm talking. And all of a sudden, the energy was like hovering and swirling over my left shoulder. And again, I'm thinking, oh, this is really strange, but I'm still saying my lines, talking out loud. And then I felt a big whoosh go over the left side of my head. And this totally different voice came out of my mouth. And I recognized that it was Marilyn's. And it was a very strange thing because within an instant, it was like, how did I forget that whole other lifetime? And so my mind had all these conflicting thoughts because I'm thinking, how could I forget this whole other lifetime? But at the same time, I'm thinking, oh, yeah, I remember being her. So then I said to myself, I said, God, let me know if I'm crazy or, tell me that I'm not. And all of a sudden, all these images just flooded through my mind really quickly in rapid succession, kind of like black and white photos from like maybe the 40s. And I just accepted it. I was like, okay, I remember I was Marilyn. And at the time, I didn't actually have any full-blown memories yet, but I just believed I was Marilyn. And I proceeded in the next few months to tell a few acting instructors and fellow students and my parents. And from there on in, I just never went back. I still believe in God. I still believe in Jesus, but I know reincarnation's real. And then I would say it was by my third year of college, I started to remember multiple past lives. So that's when it happened, age 19.
Okay. So that was about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was born 23 months after Marilyn died. I was born in July of 1964. So, and obviously that was in 1983, I said. So So I'm 50. I'm 56. Do the math. I'm 56.
So
But if I were still Marilyn, I'd be in my 90s. You know.
So the bottom line is that you weren't really tuned into Marilyn Monroe throughout your life.
No, as a matter of fact, I always had a really strange reaction to her. I remember watching this TV show once, and this woman was playing someone who was similar to Marilyn, but wasn't called Marilyn. It was actually Connie Stevens. And my father walked into the room at the end of the movie and said, "Oh, this seems like a spinoff of Marilyn." And I said, "Well, who?" And he goes, "Oh, Marilyn, she OD'd, but she was a really pretty actress, but she OD'd." And I remember thinking, "Oh, I don't think so." But then I didn't think anything else of it, you know. And oddly enough, at the time during the 70s, you know, I would see Jane Russell doing 18-hour bra commercials on TV, and I would see Joe DiMaggio doing Mr. Coffee Maker commercials on TV, and I would just like look at them and think, why are they doing that? You know, I mean, so I didn't have any sense of what that meant, but yet, you know, there was something about these people. But no, I wasn't a Marilyn fan. And I remember thinking, oh no, not that dumb blonde image again. Like when I would see Marilyn advertised on television, I would think, oh no, not that dumb blonde image again.
Well, see, this is why you came back as a redhead.
I wish I did. Every day's a bad hair day in my life.
Don't talk about hair now.
but actually, yeah, my hair is brown, but I've been a blonde. I've had black hair. I've had red hair during this lifetime. But I actually, for many years, was obsessed with hair color. And I think it's really partially because when I was Marilyn, I saw myself sometimes as almost two different people, brown-haired me and blonde-haired me. And that kind of delineated the pivotal point in my life where I adopted the image, which I had a love-hate relationship with. So I do think hair color symbolizes something to me.
So as you went through life and after your 19-year-old experience and you begin to realize, ooh, I had this previous life and this is who I was. As you went through life, did you feel more connected to that previous life as time went, or was it an instant big connection from the beginning?
It's so weird because it's like I went through a period of time where I told people, oh, I believe in reincarnation now. I was Marilyn Monroe, and I had a whole variety of responses. For instance, my father told me he preferred Jane Mansfield, and it kind of hurt my feelings. But then years later, he said he took it back. But anyway, no, I didn't feel a big connection. I just knew it. And by my third year of college, I began to remember other lifetimes too. So I know Marilyn is pretty and sexy and popular and young forever in people's minds, but she's no more important than anybody else who's been in my past, you know, lives who I remember and feel really bonded to. So it was kind of like I remembered some really startling things from her life, but they were competing for attention in my mind because I was remembering other lifetimes too. And this is all while I was going to college and not doing very well in school, might I say. So I had a lot of emotional stuff going on, and I would remember like traumas from various lifetimes at one time. So I felt bonded, but it wasn't like I only related to her, you know? And I think that people who love Marilyn see her as very special, and maybe they don't understand that, but she's not more important than other people I remember being too. So
you've got a Catholic background. Is that what I understood you said? Okay. And did Dave had a Catholic background, or both of them?
I thought they both did, didn't they?
Yeah, they both. I think they did too. And just curious things go through my head here. So you share the Catholic background, but Catholics are Christian. Some people would argue that, but they are Christian. And like I said before, the Protestant movement came from Catholicism. Bottom line, that's the mother church, as they say. Um, but all three of you having that similar background, now you're focused in your writings and what you seem to talk the most about, your most current incarnation of Marilyn Monroe. But like the others, you remember other lives back through history other than them. Um, are you how far back do you go in memory of previous lives? Do they come to you? Do you have to meditate like Dave does, or how does this occur? How do you grasp this history?
For me, I wasn't looking for them, and I was in college, like I said, and I wasn't meditating at all probably until I was like 26, 27. So from 19 to 26, I wasn't meditating at all. I don't know how to explain this other than when you have a past life memory, it's so familiar, like it's yours.
Mhm.
It's not shocking that you're having them. It's shocking if you remember being burnt at the stake and you really remember the background story. And I have one of those lifetimes. It's shocking if you remember being beaten to death in a brothel. It's shocking, if you just remember being depressed on a regular basis because maybe you lived a lifetime where you just had a lot of resentment and a lot of things went wrong. But the actual ownership of these memories just comes very natural. It doesn't feel shocking at all. It's not. It's like, oh, how did I ever forget that?
So does something trigger it? Like Dave went into this meditative state, and that's
Right.
where his came from.
Right.
The meditation thing is what started his whole understanding of his past lives. You say that yours didn't take place that way. Was there any other triggers that caused it?
Well, you really want to know the truth.
Yeah,
if I have to guess, I was very, very thin growing up. All right, I was one of those people that didn't really put on weight. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then when I went off to college, I was trying really hard to be a really good Catholic girl. And you know how it is. I mean, your hormones are going crazy and there's so many cute boys. And you even wish the gay guys in the theater were straight and you could do something with them. Okay. So I was really frustrated. So I was like eating more and more, but I was lifting weights and okay. So these here got really big for a couple years, okay, which was a real shock to me. What?
No,
but so they're not anymore. They're very average, but they were pretty big for a while, and things have changed when the guys stop looking at your eyes and telling you you've got a nice face and and you're walking down the theater department hallway, but so anyway, I think maybe my physicality and the way people were responding to me. And then I remember at one point I had to pick out a scene with this one boy in my class, and he was not a theater major, but somehow he was in some theater classes and he couldn't act to save his life. And I was paired up with him and we had to pick a scene, and I go, oh, let's just do this scene from Bus Stop. and I don't know why. I just wanted a reason to look sexy. So I admit it. I was as bad as the guys in my mind, but I was trying really hard to be Catholic and good too. And so I think that maybe my
you don't understand. That is typical Catholic.
I know what they say. Like once you rebel, you rebel. But I think that I was just starting to act a certain way. And it's weird because many years later, I looked up a friend of mine who is very, very, very anti reincarnation. She's super religious. But I was saying something to her about, oh, do you remember our acting class? Because we had a favorite acting teacher. And she said, I just remember you sounded like Marilyn Monroe. And I cringed because I thought I didn't want to sound that way. I wanted to break the mold. I didn't want to do that. And I remember toward the end of Marilyn's life thinking what I really needed to do is change my image. I needed to leave Hollywood. I needed to get away from cameras for 2 years. This is what I told myself. I needed to darken my hair. I needed to wear pretty clothes, but not revealing clothes. And I needed to go study in the theater. And I remember thinking that when you are acting in a movie, it's kind of like cheating. That's what I thought to myself. I thought it's kind of like cheating because you're not actually playing this character and this story for 2 or 3 hours from beginning to end. You are getting 40 takes if you need it. You're doing one scene at a time if you need it. They're lighting you so that you look good from every angle. And I thought, that isn't having integrity. That's not real acting. And, you know, I wanted to change my image, but I didn't have the guts to stay away from the cameras that long. I really was afraid of that. And so I don't know. So when people would say to me every once in a while, oh, you sound like Marilyn, I would cringe. You know, it's like, oh, I don't want to. I don't want to. And it's interesting because I talked, I am chatted with this one woman in Canada who is the most publicized Marilyn claimer around. She's a little bit famous because she came out like over 10 years ago. And she used to say to me all the time, well, you don't look like Marilyn, so you can't be Marilyn. And I look more like Marilyn than you do. And I said, I remember being Marilyn and thinking I would be taken more seriously if I looked like Greta Garbo, Joan Crawford, Joan Fontaine, Olivia de Havilland, somebody else, if I just didn't look so round, cute. Like I just wanted to be taken seriously, you know? And I remember thinking I needed to get a vocal coach and I needed to change the way I spoke because I always felt that the cadence of my voice was working against me in getting serious dramatic roles. So, you know, there's kind of this love-hate thing going on. There's this, I know my image has gotten me in the door, but is it going to sustain me once I'm in my 40s? So I'm not surprised I came back looking different and sounding different because I didn't want to do that anymore. I knew I was going to have to change. Had I not died and I had gone into my 40s, I would have had to change one way or another because Hollywood likes people young, you know? It's just the way it is.
So you've got, I mean, we all know who Marilyn Monroe is. So each time you reincarnate, no matter if it's, you know, I mean, Kevin's reincarnation of Laurel from Laurel and Hardy, I think. Or was it
Has he said that or are you saying that?
Yeah, he's saying it. So I'll say who's Curly from the Three Stooges.
Yeah. No, here's Alistair right there. There's Alistair Crowley right there.
And you have past life memories of being him?
Oh, there's absolutely no doubt.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to read about him. I'll read about him.
Ask Kevin. He will confirm that I'm the wickedest man on earth.
I don't know about on earth, but
You've so got me fooled. But, you know, I say to people all the time, I say, I'm not a bad boy chaser. It's just that bad boys are really good at acting like good guys until you're hooked on them. And then you find out they're bad boys.
So here you are. And let's now jump into right now this book, Not Just Another Girl, the myth about sleeping nude. What is this? I mean, we don't want to give up the book. You know, we want people to have a reason to go to Amazon.com and buy one of her books, just like they're going to go to Kevin Kane and buy one of his books and look at one of my books. We don't want to give you the whole story. His Haunted Dolls, My Haunted Dolls, datingthedead.com. But anyway, Not Just Another Girl, the myth about sleeping nude. What is, did you bring up nude just to try to sell the book?
No. And as a matter of fact, okay, so when you have a book, you're supposed to have a title, and then you're supposed to have a subtitle. And so I came up with the title of the book called Marilyn, Not Just Another Girl. Because the night I died, I remember hearing somebody say, "You'll get over her, Bobby. She's just another girl." And that really hurt my feelings. And so I carried that with me. And there was no doubt in my mind that that's what I was going to call the book. And then as far as the subtitle goes, I actually had another one for quite a few months. And then all of a sudden, I came up with this one. At first, I was going to call the subtitle, Jack, Do You Know What Your Brothers Did? But then I came up with the myth about sleeping in the nude, because people like to report that Marilyn was found in the nude, and I wasn't sleeping in the nude. I remember watching two people take my white negligee off of me the night I died. And I was out of body at that point, because I was kind of in and out of body as different things were being done to me. But that was really the pivotal point where I realized, okay, things are not going to go the way I want them to. And this is happening, and I'm going to die. And that was the pivotal point when I saw that. You know, I saw one guy trying to yank my negligee off here, and he wasn't taking into account that I have arms and a head, and you have to actually get this dead weight. And the other guy leaned over and actually took it off, you know, the right way.
So if at that point you were already dead.
Well, no, there were different. Oh my gosh, my alarm clock's going off now. It's voice activated. I should unplug it maybe.
It's a poltergeist.
Well, it doesn't do what you want it to anymore. It's really weird, but it goes off at weird times, and I forgot to unplug it. No, well, I mean, different things happened to me. I mean, I was slapped around a couple of times.
So you weren't, at that point, you were not dead, is what you're saying.
No, not fully. I was smothered. I went out of body for the first time after I was smothered, but then I went back in my body. And then I saw somebody, the man with the briefcase, he had a machine and he had some tubes and he had some pink stuff and green stuff. And he put that in me. So I kind of died over a period of time, but like several different things happened to me.
Okay, so this, and understand, we're intertwining a couple of stories. Of course, people are interested in Marilyn Monroe. Well, we are. I am.
Yeah, I know.
The way I'm reading this with this interview is because it's not just about Marilyn Monroe. The bigger subject is reincarnation.
Right.
And you're bringing up some interesting things because you're talking about when Marilyn, at least everybody thought she was dead, and you're talking about having an out-of-body experience during this period of time. So to me, the next obvious question is, when you die, you're just like a Christian believes, your spirit thrives until you're reincarnated, and then your spirit goes into another body. Is that the way it works?
I don't really remember the whole process of the in-between life. I only remember glimpses of things that I believe happened initially afterwards. So I've talked to some people on reincarnation sites who will say things like, I had the chance to choose my family and I could go into this family or that family. I actually know somebody who said that he was given the chance to be one of Bobby Kennedy's children and turned it down. Now, I don't know if that's true, but he said that.
Kennedys get shot.
Well, yeah, and I don't know. That's what he says, but I don't remember having a choice. I do very much believe that I purposely came back to a very religious family, though, because when I was dying, I did have that sort of fear of hell, because I knew being a sex symbol was both revered and also kind of something that maybe wasn't considered good by everybody. So I did kind of fear that. And there were many other things in my life. I mean, I can tell you about things that I did not like about myself during that life, because I would think about things I did and knew that I was being petty or knew that I was making up excuses for myself. And so, you know, I did have that fear of, oh my God, what's going to happen? You know, I've devoted the second half of my life to being this sex symbol, you know, which is controversial. And so I think I specifically came back into a religious family. But do I remember picking them? No, I don't remember any of the intermediate life, just a few little things.
All right. So back to my question again. You were Marilyn Monroe in a previous life.
Right.
Marilyn
My
Monroe
last-
died. We really hadn't got into how she died yet. We can talk about that later. But I'm trying to understand reincarnation in general as we go along. So as your body is laying there and the first responders, I'll call them, were there, and you are able to remember what's taking place to your almost dead self, at least. Your spirit seems to be leaving the body and coming back. And let me interrupt this question. Think about that for a minute. Kevin is a devout Christian. Now, my PhD is in theology, but I don't want to answer these questions for myself because my education kind of takes away from some of the elements. But I want Kevin to respond. Kevin, as you listen to this story, I'm not asking you what you think about reincarnation at this point, but I'm curious with your Christian faith and what you understand about the Bible. Let's take, for instance, Jesus. Jesus was put to death, okay, on the cross. And he was he dead for 3 days, or did he exist somewhere for those 3 days before he was resurrected?
Well, we're not really told where he was during those 3 days.
So what would you
All we can do is guess
based
it.
on your faith, what would you think?
I would think he might have been in that sleep state that the Bible mentions that we go into before Christ, or maybe some temporary level there.
So but would you agree that the majority of Christianity thinks that immediately upon death, your spirit leaves your body? Some people call it a soul, which is a misinterpretation of the word soul, but that you go immediately like, oh, she's with grandpa up in heaven now. Your Kevin's definition is what I understand is that when you're dead, it's a sleep-like condition until the resurrection.
Yeah, I go by, I mean, if you really look at the Bible, even Thessalonians says that when Christ returns, those that are dead within him shall rise, or those that are already dead shall rise first, and those that haven't will follow after. So that tells me they're not sitting in heaven. It's always been like, they go, I know there's somewhere in the Bible that refers to it as the arms of Abram that they go into, which to me, it sounds like it's a sort of a temporary realm we go into. Catholics believe it's purgatory.
Yep.
I don't believe it's purgatory per se. I think,
And by the way, the Mormons call purgatory the outer darkness.
Oh, my mom talks all the time. If I go home to Pennsylvania, my mom will say, well, we're praying for the souls in purgatory.
Yeah.
So I know I hear about but something that's really great though, people know that Marilyn had an unstable childhood, that her mother was mentally ill and couldn't take care of her a lot. People know her father didn't accept her and she wasn't quite sure who her father was. So here I am in this lifetime. My parents are in the early 80s. They're still alive. They're still in the same family home I grew up in. When I go to visit them, I can sleep in the same bedroom I slept in as a kid, even though it's decorated different with some stuff. But so in that sense, I got something during this lifetime that I really craved during my last lifetime.
Okay, so where I'm coming from now, Dave or whoever is commenting here as we go along said that you're transitioning for those 3 days to the spiritual world. So the confusing thing I've got, understanding reincarnation, is that you leave your body, you're in the spirit world, and then you come back and possess another body. Is this what I'm understanding with reincarnation, that you've died?
Right.
So from a mainstream Christian, see, Kevin and I agree on the biblical teaching of death. Until the resurrection, you are dead, you're asleep. Mainstream Christianity kind of teaches a different version of that. They if you go to any funeral right away, they're saying, oh, she's with her husband or whatever. But the Bible doesn't teach that. Now, in saying these things, I want to make very clear, I'm not advocating the Bible. It's my background, and that's what Kevin's faith is based in.
I can tell you why. I've heard some Christians say, as soon as you're dead, boom, you're in heaven.
Yeah.
Is they kind of go to that when Christ is on the cross and you got the criminal on each side of him. One of them is stabbing him. Why don't you get us down from here? Where the other one is asking him for forgiveness, and the one that's siding with Jesus. Jesus says, "I say, today you'll be with me in paradise."
Yeah, but what they do
instantly went to paradise. Well, time to God is different than us.
Well, not only that, but they didn't put the comma. I'm telling you today, you're going to be with me in paradise.
I'm saying
that's what they meant, because otherwise the Bible contradicts itself. See, because in the Old Testament it says the dead know nothing; they have no more love, no more memory. The soul that sinneth, it shall die, and those kind of things. Again, I'm not even saying the Bible's right. I'm not saying that my interpretation of the Bible is right or that Kevin's interpretation. There are a lot of interpretations about life and death and different faiths and all that. So I'm not promoting one over the other. It just happens to be my background and be what Kevin has put his faith in. And I just want, and your background is in that as well. And what I'm trying to understand, because it kind of puts a different twist on the reincarnation story as I understood reincarnation, and I'm no expert in reincarnation, but my basic understanding was that you come back to life as a human. It doesn't say anything about being in the spirit world, but what I'm presented with and what Dave, as I guess, is talking to me over here in the chat room, is that you do go to the spirit world before you come back in another body and another human. You're reborn, and maybe that's where Well,
I mean, I've heard other people say, some people will claim that they can remember a lot before they come back. Some people claim they remember learning lessons and things on the other side. I just don't. I remember initially when I died, when I was definitely crossing over, I was met by a woman who basically looked like me. I mean, Marilyn, because I was still thinking of myself as Marilyn. And I would say something to her and she would repeat what I said, but she would do it very stoically, whereas I would do it, very emotionally. And she would do it very stoically. And as she would repeat whatever I would say to her, it felt like it was sucking the energy out of me, neutralizing my energy. And I remember thinking that I had lived another lifetime many years ago where I had to be very strong because I wanted to be a leader. And I had to pretend I didn't have feelings so that I could compete with men and I could be seen as tough and I could manipulate them to do what I wanted them to. And I remember thinking that it was completely the opposite of Marilyn, who was always crying and falling apart and having a difficult time. So I feel that I was being shown that I guess that Marilyn's life was just very much the opposite of a previous life I had lived, and I need to strike the balance. It's important to strike the balance.
So another question that was asked was, what is your belief as far as why are we reincarnated? Why would this repeated life cycle thing go on? So this, and where does it start? I mean, how far back do you go and when does it start? I mean, there's only like now there's pushing 8 billion people on the planet. There's more people on the planet right now than existed throughout humanity. Where's these people coming from if we're all reincarnated?
I have no sense of the science and all of that. I hear other people talk about that, and I don't even, quite frankly, spend my time on that because I don't know. But to give you an example of why I think we come back or what you can do with it if you do remember a past life. Okay, for instance, you know how people will say, hurt people hurt other people? I mean, you've probably heard that saying before.
Oh, I've never heard anybody. Except
okay. Okay. So there's that saying about hurt people hurt other people. So this is really tricky because Marilyn is put so high up on a pedestal, and I have talked to other Marilyn fans who kind of don't like it when I say this, but I remember being her. And I have to look at my behavior during that lifetime, And I have to figure out what I should have done different and what I need to carry into my current life. So, for instance, I'm sure Ethel Kennedy, who's still alive, doesn't think Marilyn is perfect and wonderful, because Marilyn had an affair with Bobby. So I remember being Marilyn, and there were different reasons I got involved with the Kennedys, but I remember being Marilyn. And when I would think about messing around with a married man, for instance, I would think, well, I'm really hurt and I really need this and things aren't going right in my life. And so it's okay. And I would make up excuses for myself. I would also sometimes look at other people who I thought were much more privileged than I was. And I would think, well, if they end up heartbroken, they'll get over it. But I really need this. So the point I'm trying to make is I would make up excuses for my behavior sometimes. It's just like, when you say to people, well, I want to be seen as more than a body, and then you go pose nude for someone again. So that's hypocritical. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't really think about the scientific and the creation aspect of things. I just think, what does remembering this past life mean to me in my current life? What is it I'm supposed to carry forward? What is the lesson? What am I supposed to do? And you're supposed to try to do better, And so I don't look at Marilyn as, a legend or an icon. I look at her as Norma Jean, the person that I was. And I look at my traumas and I look at my fears and whatever I do remember and my death and things I did wrong. And I think, can I forgive myself? Can I forgive other people? What should I do different in the future?
What do you think, as Marilyn, you did wrong? I know you mentioned the affairs, okay. But what else? Skip the Kennedys, and what else do you feel guilty about from a previous life?
When I was 20, one of my very vivid memories was of being Norma Jean. And I'm guessing I was about 6. I'm thinking I was about 6, but it was probably like 1932. And I remember playing with a little boy, and we were running around inside of a house. His folks were visiting the people I was staying with. And we almost knocked something over because we were running around playing cowboys and pretending to shoot each other. So we were told to go outside and play, but don't go in the barn. There was a barn at the edge of the property. So we go outside and we're running around and we're pretending to shoot each other and all of that. And then I got tired and I decided to go in the barn, even though we were told not to go in the barn. So I went in the barn. And long story short, because I do write about it in my book in a little more detail, but long story short, I ended up leaving the barn before the little boy did. And he ended up severely injuring himself on a piece of barn equipment that he fell on top of, and he died later that day. Now, this is something I felt very guilty about during that lifetime. I mean, because I felt that it was my fault that he fell on that barn hook or whatever it was and died because I was the one who went in the barn. I was like 2 years older than he was, and he followed me in, and I felt he would have lived had I not gone in the barn. So I remember never telling anybody about it, and I lived with that guilt and that shame of feeling like it was my fault this happened. And I remember even being on the set of Bus Stop, and I remember sitting on a chair with my head down, and I was in like a pill-induced stupor because I'd taken too many drugs the night before. And I remember the thought of this little boy dying went through my mind, and I pushed it out as fast as I could because it felt so shameful, even many years later. I've often felt that if I could get my story, this particular story, out on either a prominent talk show or on something that goes viral, maybe somewhere some like great aunt or uncle or cousin or whatever relative of this little boy might actually come forward and be able to confirm that this is a legitimate memory, because I know it is. But anyway, that was something that I felt guilty about. Now, one might argue that I was only a child and it was an accident, but that was something I felt guilty about and carried that guilt into this lifetime.
So you can't take back what's happened.
No.
It's done. That is sealed, and you can't do anything about it. All you can do is correct the future.
Right.
So, do you think then that you're given this opportunity in a new reincarnation, a new incarnation, to prove that you're better? Is that where it goes? In other words, this is where I screwed up the last life. So this life, we're going into kind of a Buddhist thing here, right?
Yeah, all I know is growing up, I had a real fear of stepping out of line and doing things wrong. And I remember
with a conscience feels that.
Yeah, but I mean, I went to the community theater for 2 summers when I was still in high school. And I remember we had a bitch session one time when we were taking a break. We were all making scenery for these plays, but we took a break. And I remember one girl saying to me, "You are just too good. You don't do anything wrong. You're too good. You're a goody two shoes." And I really think I had such a fear of stepping out of line and getting into trouble and doing something bad. And I think that carried over. Now, is it a bad thing to have a conscience? No, it's a good thing. But maybe that's why I had such an ultra fear of, not wanting to disobey and just, being almost ridiculous about it, in terms of a kid, being so afraid.
So then it becomes, at this point, not only you, but as we know, there are other people, other women that claim that they're Marilyn Monroe in a previous life. You have competition. And
No, I don't.
Well, they would consider it so.
Yeah, good luck.
But I believe there's also a guy out there that claims
Yeah.
he was Marilyn Monroe from a previous life.
Yeah, Chris Vincent.
So the bottom line is that it becomes, why is it so important to you to convince people that you're the real deal and these other people are fake? Because I've seen back and forth little conflicts and whatnot going on, which, by the way, Kevin and I are used to, because in the world of the paranormal, ghost hunting groups, they do that crap all the time. So they're like, "I'm the good one, you're the bad one."
I remember, I think it was 2002. I actually lived in the San Diego area for 10 months. I remember turning on the TV and seeing this advertisement, and it said that this woman, I didn't pay much attention. There was this other woman who believed she was Marilyn Monroe. And I remember looking at that and going, "No, she wasn't." And I didn't even watch it when it came back on. I'm like, "No, she wasn't." Okay. So I, years later, 2.5 years later, had skin cancer surgery on my face, and it messed up my face, which is why I wear glasses. And I was really traumatized, thinking about life and death all the time. And about 6 months later, I was really depressed. I'm going, okay, my birthday's coming up. What do I want on my tombstone? She was 53 or 54. I was really depressed. And then I started thinking, I came back for a reason. And all these, 3.5 decades since I had past life memories, I would tell people periodically how I died during my last past life. But I always had this voice in my head saying, that's not enough. You're supposed to tell the world. That's not enough. And I didn't know.
You're supposed to tell the world what?
How I really died.
So I'm sorry, I'm not arguing with you, but it seems like to me that more important than how you died would be how you lived.
Well, they're both important. And that's why I write about various things in my book. There's different things I wanted people to know about Marilyn, not just how I died, but maybe it's because I'm the one who died, but to me it matters. And so, long story short, when I was depressed and I started thinking, well, I need to do something, this is your karma, you've thought it for years, I Googled woman who thinks she was Marilyn Monroe during her last past life, because I remembered back in 2002, somebody on TV said they were, right? And of course, Sherry Leah Laird from Canada is the very publicized Marilyn claimer who came out like a decade or more ago. And then there were all these other people. And like you said, a guy named Chris from the UK was also among them. And so I watched a lot of Sherry's interviews because she gave a bunch of interviews. Like she and a doctor who studied her were on Geraldo and a bunch of news reports. And he wrote a book about her and said, well, she probably was Marilyn and all of this. So it was a big thing. And she was likable. She was attractive. She's in a rock band in Canada. She stayed in showbiz, you know, all of that. And I thought I could be fine with this. I could be fine with her claiming that she was Marilyn. Who cares? Except for she has my cause of death wrong. And she says I just OD'd. And I couldn't stand it. It bothered me. I know I made a self-promise to tell people what really happened to me.
All right. So since that's so important, then now tell us how Marilyn died.
Well, this is the really strange part about it. I really was very insecure about knowing I would be 40 in a couple of years, 4 years. And I was thinking a lot about how my career was probably going to go downhill if I didn't change my image. And I didn't really have the guts to change my image at that point. And I did take pills that night with the thought that I would take more later in the evening and I would kill myself. I took a handful of pills. I don't know how many, 5 or whatever. And I was going to take more in a few hours. I thought I'd make some phone calls. I would just do some other things. And I'm going to end it tonight. And I know a lot of people find that hard to believe because they say, oh, Marilyn had plans to do this and Marilyn had plans to do that. But I can tell you, if you are really in that mindset, and nobody should be, I'm not telling anyone that suicide's good, but if you are in that mindset, it doesn't matter what's going on around you. You are consumed with something that's wrong on the inside. And apparently I got so groggy, I fell asleep because the next thing I remember was waking up to the sound of 3 men coming in my bedroom door. And I was lying down and I was, I was trying to get awake, coherent, but you have to realize I did have some drugs in my system. And it was Bobby, Edward, and a man with a briefcase were there. Bobby and Edward Kennedy and a man with a briefcase came in my room. And Bobby came, to the head part of my bed, and Edward was in the middle, and the man with the briefcase was at the end. And I don't know who that man was. And I remember just kind of like sitting up and Bobby was talking to me and telling me that I had to get out of something. Now, Michele, don't know what I had to get out of. I just know he was telling me I had to get out of something. I'm sure Marilyn must have known, but I don't know what it was. He was telling me I had to get out of something. And I kept saying, you can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me what to do. And then I said I had to go to the bathroom. So I went to a bathroom and pulled the door shut and stood behind the bathroom door and stared at the wall and thought, what are these guys doing out there in my room? Why didn't Bobby come alone? I mean, I didn't understand why Bobby didn't come alone and why he brought them, And then I teetered back out to the bed because, again, I had some drugs in my system and I plopped myself down in the middle of the bed, sitting up, half lying down, just kind of, like where you're teetering. And Bobby said that Edward told him that I had had sex with him too, which I didn't. And that's a whole other story. There's a backstory to that. And Bobby slapped me a few times and called me a slut. And at first I kept saying, no, Bobby, I didn't do it. But then something in my mind just tripped, something went off in my mind. And I started laughing hysterically. I was just laughing hysterically because I thought he's never going to believe me over his brother. And to me, that was funny. But if anybody out there knows what it's like to be like really drunk or really on drugs, you know, you can go from tears to laughter and back and forth and all over the place, you know, just like that. And that's how I was. And I just started laughing hysterically and like rolling on the bed, like laughing. And I saw Edward's arms reach past me, get my bedroom pillow, and he said, "There's only one way to shut up a slut." And he put it over my face. And I remember being like this and like trying to pull at the pillow, and I felt like my head was going to explode. And that's when my consciousness first went out of my body. And it was very strange because one of the things we haven't talked about yet is that as Marilyn, I had a lot of hallucinations. I had a lot of mental problems aside from taking drugs, and way before Hollywood, I had hallucinations. And I remember in the moments that I was first freed from my body, I realized I was free from those hallucinations. But at the same time, there was such a part of my life. It was almost like losing a piece of my identity for a moment because I couldn't believe the clarity I had. But I was also very ungrounded. You know, I was out of body for the first time and I was panicked. And at some point, I remember my consciousness smashed into a mirror. And I was startled, and I don't know what startled me, but I have always wondered, now that I hear about all these other Marilyn claimers, I've always wondered if somehow my energy was like shattered and scattered to other people. I feel that my soul is in one place, but I wonder if my energy got displaced. I can't think of why there's so many Marilyn claimers, but what happened was my consciousness came back out, and I saw Bobby pacing around the room looking really sad and worried, and my consciousness went up to his blue eyes, and I was like, "I'm here, Bobby, I'm here." But of course he couldn't, you know, see me because I was out of body. And I remember hearing Edward say, "You'll get over Bobby. She's just another girl." And so that's what that book is from. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing, and then I've got a couple of questions. What I'm hearing is that Marilyn was murdered, suffocated with this pillow. Now, has that story that you just, not in the intricate detail that you gave, but the fact that 3 people came into your room, as you identified, the only one you didn't recognize, has that story been shared anywhere else by anyone else ever that you know of?
I don't know. I mean, I've been telling it for years. Now, I know somebody else. I know.
I've never had a conversation regarding any of this with you, but I know that story.
Well, interestingly enough, I had to look for a different publisher for my second book, and I was hunting a different publisher because my first one for my first book became prudish and decided they didn't want to write about reincarnation and sex anymore. I found a woman who introduced me to another woman who apparently wrote some book with some mobster guy who claims he knows some other mobster guy who claims Marilyn was suffocated. But I told her my story, but there's more to it than that. I mean, I wasn't completely dead. I went back to my body.
I cannot remember where I either read this or saw it in some kind of mini documentary. I can't remember all that. The problem I have is when I read, I've got a very vivid imagination. And after I read a book, I feel like I watched a movie of it, if you know what I'm saying. So I can't remember if I read the story or I saw it on a TV show or something. But aside from all the intricate details you shared, I remember the story of the Kennedys, along with a third person, going into Marilyn and actually killing her, bottom line, okay? And then they left, and at some point somebody called and said, "We can't get a hold of Marilyn," and of course the paramedics arrived and that sort of thing. And I've never, until you told it, I did not remember that story. But as you told it, it's like, whoa, I know this story.
Well, it's true. So if you heard it, then, I mean, how can I be surprised?
Right. So now we're back to what you said before. Now you're out of body.
It's out of
And
body.
Yeah.
And I saw my negligee be taken off of me. I remember seeing my body from the outside and thinking I looked older than I thought I did. I looked clammy and sweaty. I thought I needed a manicure.
How many years between her death and your birth?
Like 23 months.
Okay.
I mean,
so where was Marilyn in those 23 months?
I wish I knew.
So
I mean, I don't remember.
Anything. Okay.
I just remember a few little visual like things, which I think were initial things. I don't remember the intermediary life. Some people on reincarnation sites claim they do. I don't.
Now, I understand, and I'm getting, of course, Dave, I guess, is the one that's commenting here, talking about atonement and whatnot. And I understand he's integrating his, Christianity with the reincarnation story. So, and I'm not arguing anything. So don't think I'm debating you. This is not a debate. This is trying to understand what you believe. Now, my whole background is studying belief systems. I'm very, very curious about people's beliefs and where their beliefs come from, how these things evolve. And you have, just like Kevin has this deep-rooted faith in what he believes, you're not going to sway Kevin's beliefs. I don't care what you tell him. I don't care what you do to him. You can stick a match up under his butt and set him on fire, and he's still going to say, praise Jesus. Okay?
I've been burned at the stake before. That's no fun.
So the bottom line is, I'm just because someone, and I'm not picking on Kevin or you. Okay.
He's like, the match at my butt. He's talking that. He's not picking on me.
It was hypothetical. Jeez. I don't suggest doing that to anybody. And that's dangerous to do to him because he farts.
Oh my God! Why are you saying this?
I've been in a car with him for 3 hours. He ain't
All right. Oh man.
But like I said, I mean, that's just part of what happened that night, because I was in and out of body, and at one point when I was out of body, I did see a needle on the floor, and I was hoping no one would pick it up because I wanted someone later on.
Evidence.
Well, yeah, I wanted someone to know what happened, and I also saw some of my own pills, my own stash of pills, be thrown away, like put in the toilet, down the toilet. And I was in and out of body. And at one point when I was out of body, I did see the man with a briefcase take out some kind of little machine that had like a dial and knobs and some tubes. And he had a vial of pink stuff and green stuff. And when he took out the green stuff, he said, this one's really going to make her pop. And I know that things were a bit messy at the end. So
how old was Marilyn when she died?
36.
36?
36. Yeah. 20 years younger than I am.
Don't feel bad. Everybody's younger than I am. So, so Marilyn, as with Elvis and Prince and Michael Jackson, the bigger the star, the more controversy around their deaths. That just goes with the territory.
Well, there's no witnesses, for one thing, and then there were politicians involved for another.
Well, listen, even when you got it on film, JFK's assassination is still debated, and it's on film.
Well, how it happened, but no one debates that he was shot. I mean, we do know that.
No, they just debate, but the point is that the bigger the name, there's always going to be controversy. You're not going to overcome that controversy. Okay. It's a hot topic. And like I said, it's just, you are convinced that you are Marilyn Monroe. Nobody's going to overcome that and argue you out of that no more than they're going to argue Kevin out of his belief in Christ. It's not going to happen. Okay. And that's not the point of the questioning and so forth, even though that would be the point of some people's questioning. I'm interested in the topic of reincarnation, whether it be Marilyn Monroe or whether it be Jack the Ripper, whoever, whatever. So you go through this experience, and Marilyn Monroe was your first memory of a previous life,
Right.
but you've had others.
Yes, and it was almost like I remembered being her, but I didn't have any full-blown memories. Okay, it was like she opened up the door, but I didn't have any full-blown memories.
So
and then
the way you word that kind of confuses me.
well,
If you were Marilyn, you're speaking now as Marilyn being someone else instead of you. When you're saying Marilyn opened up the door, 1 minute you're talking in first person about Marilyn, the next minute you're talking in second person.
I do it all the time in my book too, and I even say that up front. I've heard some people say that when they remember past lives, it feels very personal, and they feel as if they're going through things themselves. And I've heard some other people say it's more like they're watching their self from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And I have often said, I feel like I am either that person completely in that memory, or I'm almost like attached to them, but it's not, I don't disassociate. I don't just watch my former selves, any of them. So I actually say in my book that I am going to try not to lose the readers, but I will be switching back and forth between first and third person when I talk about these events. And I try really hard to make things very clear so I don't confuse people. But yes, I do that.
So back to Marilyn is 50s. You're in the 21st century. Okay. Right. Part of you was in the 20th century, but you are decades away from Marilyn's prime of life.
Right.
In that world, because believe it or not, I was born during that time and remember a lot about that time. And I remember that the view of women overall, they didn't have what they've got today. Okay. In other words, women were objects and they were still almost property. Not as bad as it used to be, but they were still almost property. My father was a pastor, and back in the 50s and even the 60s, if there was a domestic dispute, the cops were never called. The cops would not get involved in domestic things. The common attitude was if the husband beat the wife, she deserved it. She just shut her damn mouth. Okay? If the husband came home drunk at 2 o'clock in the morning and started beating the wife, they didn't call the cops. They called my dad, the pastor, and he would go over and feed him coffee and pray over him and settle him down. It was a whole different world. So considering the different environment, it's just like going back, way back to the founding of this country. The very men that wrote the words, all men are created equal, were first of all men. Second of all white men. Third of all slave owners. So when they say all men were created equal, we're not really genuine to their words. It was a different time. It was accepted in that time. So the things that Marilyn went through would not have happened in your time. So the question is led to how can you overcome in a different era, in a different bubble of time and space, what's not even relatable in the 21st century compared to what was acceptable in the early part and middle part of the 20th century. Do you understand my question?
I think so, but I guess what I feel is being a person who lives with integrity is a timeless thing, and it doesn't matter what era you're in.
Not really.
You know?
Not really, well, because you, if you were a female in the 50s, born in the 30s or 40s, your view of the world would not be anything like your view is now, because the only thing you knew is that you were secondary to men. You wouldn't have this worldview now. And the things were acceptable back then for the treatment of women and blacks are not acceptable today. And the integrity was built upon what was acceptable then. And it's not a fault thing. It's just like people would argue in Alabama that George Wallace was a prisoner of his time. Okay, that if George Wallace were alive now, he wouldn't be the racist that he was back in the 60s, you see, because he was trapped in his bubble of time. So the problem I've got with trying to overcome a previous life and the mistakes you made is there's such a difference in the culture, such a difference in the laws and everything else that you were subjected to. Because Marilyn Monroe would not recognize the 21st century in any way, fashion, or form. She'd be totally lost.
Yes, but wouldn't you agree that whether you lived in the 50s or now, you still shouldn't be messing around with somebody else's husband?
It wasn't, and again, because first of all, it still happens. Donald
Right,
Trump,
but is it right?
it's
Is
always,
it right?
I don't, is it wrong or is it right? Jacqueline Kennedy was fully aware of her husband's situation.
That's
She did
beside
not
the
run
point.
from it, just like Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton.
But that's beside the point. You
No,
still
it's not.
know, but you still know within yourself.
Wait a minute. There are swingers, Michele.
Oh,
They
I
have
know
open
that. Have you
relationships.
read my book?
No, I haven't. I'm asking you questions. The question I'm trying to get a hold of is a difference in time and the way we view things compared to the world that she was in, or the world that anybody was in 100 years ago, 200 years ago, is dramatically different than the world we're in. Today, I live in a neighborhood that I've got Black people that live on my street. When I was a kid, that was unheard of. When I was a kid, in my lifetime, that was unheard of. So if I claim to be reincarnated from a previous life, I could not envision the 21st century and living next door to Black people. Are you kidding me? They live over there. That's their place. And my kids going to school with Black people? See, and we were ethical people. We had integrity. The integrity, in fact, that segregation was based on the Bible.
Okay, I
Might be a
understand.
bad interpretation of the Bible, but that's what they.
I understand what you're saying in terms of there may be different rules at different times or in different places,
And
but
that affects your worldview. That infects your integrity because
yes, but you still know that you have to take responsibility for yourself. And if you know that you're being a hypocrite sometimes about certain things, you still have to say, no matter how hurt I am.
Why are you being a hypocrite?
Well, it is okay. It is to say, again, to say, I want to be seen as more than just a body, and then you toss off your clothes because a cameraman's over there. Then you're kind of being a hypocrite. So you have to say to yourself, okay, either I accept the way people see me, or I work to change it. I'm just saying, within yourself, or to say, oh, they're going to think I'm a really nice person if I act really nice, but I'm going to screw her husband by the end of the night. Is that nice? So I'm just saying, I'm not talking about earth-shattering things. I'm talking about things within yourself.
Going back, now, this is what I have learned during my lifetime about Marilyn Monroe, okay, is that she was I would say abused is the way I would look.
For sure.
So I don't see how you as a reincarnation of Marilyn Monroe should have any guilt over any of that, because men of power do that all the time. Look at Trump's history. Look at Bill Clinton's history.
There's a fine line. There's a fine line, though, because no matter what, I can allow myself certain forgiveness and leniency, but there's a fine line where you still, in the end, have to say, what do I stand for? What do I believe in? Is what I'm doing right or wrong? But, I think a bigger thing, though, that interests me, that I find fascinating, and I don't know where karma fits in this, is that Marilyn had some mental issues, and she grew up in a time where there was no Dr. Phil, there was no doctors on TV, and you thought that you would be, taken off in a straitjacket or get a lobotomy or something if you told people how truly bad your mental illness was. So I don't know where the karma is in that, but I tend to focus on what's better during this era than that era. Even though that era seems more charming in some ways, I tend to focus on what has improved And what do I wish Marilyn would have had that I have now in this world we're in now, you know?
So in a bigger picture, Michele, if you've got, just like Dave and anybody else that remembers a previous life,
Right.
isn't there something great that you could share with the world? To me, it's not just about how she died. The story is what do we learn from the story? I'll use the Bible again as an example, and I accuse Christians of this all the time, is they say Jesus, 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 but they totally forget the message. And I think there's an important message from your story that could be shared, just like from Dave's story and whatnot, that we can learn from history. And that's why I started this out. It's like, okay, you want to clear up how she died. Okay, so that's a personal thing. But in the bigger picture, to do something for the 21st century, for the future generations, wouldn't you think there's a bigger story here that could really get people to think and improve, not just Michele improve, but every heart that you can touch?
I'm trying to go public, and I'm trying to figure out what that is. It feels like a journey where I don't know where this is going to lead, but I'm trying to do something. And I do put things in my book that I hope other people might find help with them, you know, if they have some of the same problems I've had or whatever. I do want people to know how I died during my last past life. I do. I'm not going to deny it. But I also just want to talk, you know, I talk about Marilyn's mental problems, and I talk about the fact that, yeah, Norma Jean really did have a baby. I really did have a baby when I was a teenager, because I know that that's something that's been disputed, and some people think Marilyn just made that up. And I don't know. I just feel like there's so many books and things written about Marilyn. I feel like I'm here. Let me clear this up, you know?
Okay, so what you're concerned about, and just to understand, is your concern is to clear up some misconceptions about Marilyn Monroe, and specifically how she died. That's what's important, and that I guess would be Marilyn coming through you, because that would be important to her. You know, I mean, if somebody killed me and they're saying it's suicide, and I've got a way to come back and say, oh no, he did it, you know, that would be important to me.
Well, you know, and the other thing too, and I hate to use her as an example, but that it just lends itself to this. You know, Sherry, she's the most publicized Marilyn claimer. I remember hearing her saying, you know, that she had problems with drugs, and I know from some conversations I personally had with her for a couple of months when we were Facebook friends for a short time, like 2 months. I think she was doing drugs sometimes when she was writing to me because of the things she would say to me. And that's fine. You know, she's a rock star, but I can tell you I'm anti-drugs. Now, that doesn't mean I've never had a drink, and that doesn't mean that I think people shouldn't take drugs if it can help them because they're bipolar or schizophrenic or something. But I'm just saying I really like having clarity, and so I believe in being drug-free, okay? And I say that. I actually say in my book that, you know, a lot of people like Marilyn, and I feel that if people really want to honor Marilyn, then be sober. Don't be running away from yourself. Be sober, you know? So, I mean, I'm not sure that's going to help anyone, but, you know, if you asked me what one of the things I would say is I learned life is better if you can be sober.
During your life with Marilyn Monroe, you say you don't remember much about Joe DiMaggio.
I just, very little.
Is known in history as the one guy that truly loved Marilyn. Up to the day he died, he would visit her grave constantly. I mean, he was. I don't know these people. I just know what I've been able to ascertain through media and whatnot. But he seems to be the one person that truly had heart for this woman, to the point, I believe, that I understand that he did try to reach out to her. So, did Marilyn Monroe? you don't remember much of Joe DiMaggio, but was there no one else trying to reach out to her and say, hey, Marilyn, you're making some mistakes. Let me take your hand and let's see if we can get you on the right path. Some intervention. No one offered anything to Marilyn.
I really can't tell you that because I don't remember one way or another. And but you know, I've read the same things about him, and more importantly than putting roses on her grave, I think is that he, you know, he took over the funeral, so my sister didn't have that responsibility. And no, I don't remember my sister. I had a half sister during that lifetime, but to me, that's more touching, is that my sister was not left with the responsibility of my funeral. And yeah, I mean, I have mixed feelings when I think of all of my husbands from that lifetime, and I'm not going to pretend to know things I don't. One of the quotes I personally put in my book is that I won't convolute the truth, and I would rather tell you 3 things I am sure of than 20 things to impress you. And so I'm not going to bullshit to tell you I remember everything. But I will say this. I was on a Brian Weiss Reincarnation site. It's a Facebook site. I'm not sure if he himself is ever really on it or if it's something run by other people who just are really into him or know him. But I was on it once a couple months ago, and I was saying I really wish I could remember more and more and more about Marilyn's lifetime and some other lifetimes. And this man who's on this site a lot and seems to be an admin or something, very nice man. I'm afraid I would say his name wrong or else I'd say it. But he said, your soul will show you what you need to know for this lifetime. And I was lamenting that, of course, because I want to remember everything I possibly can from several of my lifetimes. And he said, no, your soul will show you just what you need to know for this lifetime. And so, you know, unfortunately, there's a lot that I don't remember, but I have to think, because of things I do remember, I feel like the things I do remember are profound. And I also know that the depth of what I feel when I remember these things is so great. Maybe if I remembered more, I wouldn't be able to function as Michele, because I can tell you my feelings are not generic. It's not like, oh, I wanted to be an actress, or, oh, you know, I had a failed relationship. You know, it's not a generic thing. I remember what it felt like to be Norma Jean. I remember that. It's very connected. I know, I feel that. So I don't know what to say. You know, as far as Joe DiMaggio goes, one of my memories that I do have of him is locking myself into a bathroom and crying and just sobbing and not being able to stop crying. And it was mostly because my woes from way back when, it wasn't even anything that was going on at the time, but a lot of my childhood sadness would return a lot of times for me, just overwhelming sadness and feelings and confusion. And he was banging on the door and he wanted me to come out of the bathroom and I wouldn't come out. And I remember thinking, I'm such a failure as a wife. And I remember thinking, you know, I have this image and a lot of people think I'm this big fantasy, but I am such a failure in relationships. And yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing I remember. Things like that. Mm-hmm. Like, why would I remember that? But that was obviously a very emotional thing to me.
And I think those, to me, are natural feelings. Okay. I don't think there's anything unnatural about the feelings you say you have like that. I think that we all have different experiences in life and we have natural reactions and feelings to those experiences. If you go through more than one relationship and you seem to be having failed relationships, most people are going to question, what am I doing wrong? What's wrong with me? Now there are narcissistic people that wouldn't do that, but most of us would. You know, would question our own behavior. But so each reincarnation, and everything that you've told me so far during our talk here, you made a comment and I didn't interrupt you at that point. I'm glad I remembered what you said, because you said something that you wondered at one time, and if I don't get your words exactly right, I'm just trying to convey what I got from what you said. That you sometimes question that if your energy went different places, that you came back reincarnated, but some of your energy got dispersed because you didn't remember everything. Is that kind of what you were saying?
I don't so much wonder that because I don't remember everything, because I have at times remembered something that was so powerful it's almost scary. But the reason I wonder, I do remember bumping into the mirror. I've remembered that for the last 3.5 decades. But I question whether or not something strange happened when I did bump into the mirror, because I can't figure out why all these other people are claiming they were Marilyn. Well, and I don't consider them liars. I just don't know what's going on. Well, it's strange.
Yeah, no matter what your beliefs are, we can kind of all boil it down to energy, in my opinion, that God is energy. That's why the Bible says, the kingdom of God is within you, and those kind of things. We're all connected in a sense through energy. You're breathing the same air that Hitler breathed. You're drinking the same water that Bin Laden drank. That's a fact, okay? Because everything's recycled. We're not getting new water, and we're not getting new air. We're in this bubble, and everything's recycled through here. The earth cleanses itself, and the reincarnation act, in my opinion, is also a cleansing process, if you will. But in that being, I have promoted the thought. I'm not saying I know, because I don't know. I don't make any. I've got opinions, but I don't know. The more I study, the less I know. Okay. But my opinion that I've shared is a possibility that when you die, a piece of you could go to a tree, a piece of you could go to a dog, a piece of you could go to Kevin. Kevin may have a little bit of Marilyn Monroe in him.
That's okay. I like dolls.
Or, they talk about that mirror that she used to be in her room at the Roosevelt Hotel.
Oh yeah.
Her ghost in that mirror, and near that pool and various other places. So
now wait a minute, Kevin.
Everywhere.
Okay, slow down, Kevin. What's this story? Tell more.
Tell you more.
I don't know that story.
Yeah, if I can remember, I've seen it several times. But there's a mirror in the Roosevelt Hotel. I don't know if you know what that is. That's a big, well-known historical hotel in Hollywood, California. That's right there, and I've been by it. It's right there near the Chinese Theater, and where the celebrity handprints are, and the Walk of Fame stars is all there. Roosevelt, a lot of celebrities stayed there, and there are a few celebrity ghosts there. One of them, I can't think of his name. I can see his face, but I can't think of his name. Stayed there while he was filming a movie, and I can almost say his name, Randolph something, or I can't remember, but
Randolph Scott?
I thought it was him, but it was somebody. He was in a movie where he was blowing a bugle horn. And he would practice that bugle horn in that hotel, in his hotel room. People claim now you can still hear his spirit playing the bugle horn up there.
I remember that story.
And it's not Randolph Scott, but it was something. I'm going to kill myself trying to remember. But Marilyn is the most famous there. She had a specific room, I guess she stayed in there, and she had a full-length mirror. And after she passed away, I think the first sighting was one of the maids went in that room to clean up after a guest. I think other guests stayed there too, besides Marilyn. But she was cleaning up and turned around and looked at the mirror, and there's Marilyn standing in the mirror smiling at her, and then she just faded away. And it sent that maid shrieking out of the room, terrified her. And other guests that came along after that stayed in that room claimed to see her, get glimpses of her spirit in that mirror. Like if they stood there, they could see her appear behind them in the mirror. Eventually, they took the mirror out. I think it's in one of the lobbies now on display. People still go up, take pictures, hoping they can catch Marilyn's ghost in it. I don't know if they've successfully gotten a picture or not, but people swear even today that if you stand there and look long enough, you'll see her spirit behind you. One Marilyn Monroe ghost photo I do know of that goes back to the late 80s, early 90s, and I saw this in a documentary called Hauntings Across America. Millions of people visit her grave every year, and some people even put on lipstick and kiss her grave. It's one of those, mausoleum type graves, and the people that take care of those, the caretakers, have to constantly clean off the lipstick stains from her grave. The surface of her.
So Kevin, do you feel that this is residual energy that's being seen in the mirror as opposed to intelligent energy?
It could be, because she used that mirror an awful lot. I was going to say that her grave, somebody took a picture of her grave, and when they got home, this is back before digital cameras, it was late 80s, early 90s. And when they developed the film on that picture of Marilyn's grave, a cloudy image is showing up there in front of or next to her plaque. And in that image, you can see her face. And and there might be more out there, but it's the only ghost photo of Marilyn that I know of. So who knows? Maybe we leave a piece of our energy scattered everywhere we've been, or.
Well, certainly one of the things people talk about on reincarnation sites is the concept of coming back as a person, but leaving some higher self part of you in some other realm. To me, that seems so bizarre because I don't understand why you wouldn't feel your other part somewhere else. I feel like if identical twins can sense each other from a distance, then why wouldn't you feel your other part of your soul or something? But people talk all the time about that.
So this is really this whole concept of reincarnation, and then the things you're saying now, I'm not going to lie to you, it confuses the hell out of me.
Oh, me too.
Because how in the world, if you come back as Marilyn and you've got there's a problem between people claiming to be Marilyn Monroe, but yet you can understand that Marilyn's energy is here, and here.
Right.
So I'm going to go back to say this. Isn't it possible that you could just be a piece of Marilyn Monroe reincarnated? And
interesting. Interesting you say that. There's a psychic friend of mine, and I don't agree with everything psychics tell me, and a lot of times they contradict one another. There is literally a psychic friend of mine in England who believes that Marilyn's soul is split into 4 parts. Half of it is still on the other side. One of my friends, I don't know if she wants me to call her out, but one of my friends has part of her soul. I have part of her soul, and it's my mission to tell people how Marilyn really died.
So Marilyn has got 4 parts.
Well, that's what he saes. He said Saint Raphael.
You know what I'm thinking when you say this, right?
That I'm
Marilyn
crazy?
was drawn and quartered.
Well, I know. Well, and he claims that Saint Raphael decided this, which is very strange because I remember saying to my mom back when I was like, I don't know, a teenager or something, I'm going to start praying to Saint Raphael because I liked the name, but I don't believe this. But anyway, and my friend is so much prettier than I am. She's 5 years younger than I am. She's blue eyes, blonde hair. And I said to this psychic friend of mine, why isn't my friend who's prettier than I am, why isn't she the one telling everyone how Marilyn died? Why don't I just tell her what happened to me, and then she can spread the message so people are more likely to listen? And he said, no, it's because you have the stick to itness. You will go for it. And I said to my friend, I don't understand why you're not telling everybody instead of me, because you're so much prettier. And she said, oh, because I'd be mean to people.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm going to go back to another Bible story. Moses didn't want to be spreading the word because he stuttered,
Right. I don't know.
So,
I mean,
the point being is, what has looks got to do with it?
Okay, well, let me tell you. Okay, there's this concept called a landmark reincarnation. And what this means is that, for instance, Marilyn's cook or Marilyn's maid or Marilyn's cousin, if she had a cousin who played with her or something, someone in Marilyn's realm could die, come back to life, remember Marilyn a lot, and mistake those memories as their own and think they were Marilyn. So a landmark reincarnation is where you were around maybe a famous person and then mistake your memories of being around them as your own and think you were that person. Or somebody, for instance, if they were the head of a Marilyn Monroe fan site and were really obsessed with Marilyn and then died, maybe they wouldn't have personally known Marilyn, but they would have known of her. And then they could come back and mistake whatever memories they have of Marilyn as their own. So I actually was told by the most publicized Marilyn claimer that because I don't look like Marilyn, and when I was 25, I looked a lot like some woman who stood next to Marilyn in a photo, that I must really be that woman. I must be a landmark incarnation because I don't look like Marilyn. So this is actually a debate on the reincarnation sites. Some people argue you should always come back looking very similar, and other people will say that's crazy.
Well, this is like religion. Yeah. We're dealing with something that is not an exact science. Okay.
Right.
So this is what you call, like it or not, I sell wishing machines. I understand radionics, okay? And being involved in that, I understand what I'm dealing with is called pseudoscience, all right? When I'm dealing with religion, you're dealing with faith. You can't prove it, or you wouldn't, if you could prove it, you wouldn't need faith, okay? I've got faith that when I get in my car and drive somewhere tomorrow, I'm going to be safe. But until I finish that drive, I can't prove it, okay? So the point is that clearly anything like this, just like religion, is going to be, it's going to have room for debate. It's going to have room for criticism and all the above, because none of it is an exact science. So Dave over here, he's got some components of his beliefs and that are different than Michele's, even though you believe the same thing. Kevin's components of his belief in Jesus and Christianity is going to be different than a lot of others who are involved. That's why there's over 30,000 different denominations of Christianity, because everybody's got their own twist on it. So that's just going to be. You're not going to get rid of that. You're not going to convince. Kevin is not going to get a Catholic and convert him to whatever church he goes to, not unless they're already questioning their faith. Right. And nobody's going to walk up to Kevin and say, you're going to become a Jehovah's Witness, Kevin. I'm going to make you. It's not going to happen. So
but,
this is.
But, sometimes there is self-satisfaction in telling the truth, even if, 2/3 of the people around you don't believe you. There's that self-satisfaction.
I think that if you are truly Marilyn Monroe, if you got some Marilyn Monroe in you, then it would be very important to Marilyn personally to identify her murderers. I didn't kill myself. I swear. I thought about it, but I didn't do it. This is what happened. That's a personal thing to a victim or the family of a victim. Okay. To you, Michele, if you were totally disconnected from Marilyn, it would not be that big a thing to you. Oh, so right. I think that only heightens your credibility of saying that you are her, because that is so important. Otherwise, it's just a passing thing. Who cares how she died now? That's been, 50 years ago.
Well, but I say to people, I don't want to make more of it than it is, because I'm no more important than anyone else. Marilyn's no more important than anybody else. But it's almost.
I would think somebody in your life thinks you're more important than a lot of other people.
But you know what I mean. But the thing of it is, because Marilyn's murder has been studied so much, there have been so many books, there have been so many man hours put into making documentaries, it's almost like it's become this historical event. So I want it to be accurate.
Yeah, and again,
I want it to be accurate.
And again, all I'm suggesting to you is you're not going to convince everybody.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. So
but
you already have to live with that, because it's like, okay, there's 50 people that claim to be Marilyn Monroe, and they all say different things about her death. Who am I going to believe? And they're all convinced 100% I'm the one. Okay.
But you want to know something? You know something, Kelsey? It's when I really think about it, though, it's like a real miracle that I even was able to come back and tell anybody that I was even able to come back. And I have some friends, some wonderful friends who do believe me, who have read my book, who have talked to me repeatedly. And I have to focus on them and not the haters or not the disbelievers. I have to focus on the people who believe me.
If you, and I keep using Kevin as an example, because Kevin, I'm not up on all Christians by a long shot, but if I judged Christianity solely on Kevin Kane, I'd be 100% sold on it, because he's the most genuine of people that you'll find.
Well, thank
you. He doesn't care. Okay, he cares about his faith, but he's not ruffled by the naysayers. Okay, now if he goes to church and they pick on him about something real harshly, he'll probably go to another church. but other than that, you know, he wants his comfort level, but he doesn't spend his life worrying about the naysayers of his belief system. If you've got truth should stand on its own 2 feet. That's always, I don't have to defend truth. Okay. Kevin's got something to say.
Oh, I was I found that photo if y'all are interested in that.
Oh, yeah.
We're looking at Marilyn Monroe's grave.
Okay.
Here it is. That's
okay,
pretty.
what is this?
They were standing at, that's where her grave is. It's what's it called? West Lawn, I believe, cemetery where these celebrities are buried.
Yeah, I know where it is. Yeah.
This is like, what they call, I don't know if you call it a mausoleum because it's outdoors, but it's a wall of crypts where some of these celebrities are buried. And this person was taking a picture of Marilyn's grave, and that cloudy image shows up there. You can see what looks really like Marilyn's face inside that cloud. And they said they didn't see that physically. It showed up on the photo later when they had the pictures developed. But that's really kind of creepy. It does look a lot like her face in there. You can see her hair up top there, and her eyes and nose and mouth. So I don't know if you call that coincidence. And I mean, if that was taken today, I could see they'd probably went in there and cropped and digital. This was back in the day when they didn't have what we have with Photoshop or even the internet. So that's weird. I remember the actor I was trying to think of was Montgomery Clift. He haunts the bugle player. But anyway, that's an interesting picture there.
Well, even today, it's been 60 years since her death. Marilyn Monroe.
58.
Yeah, Marilyn, you're going to get it right. Okay. I was just rounding it up. But it's still, so it's amazing. It's like Elvis. Okay. Graceland and all this is like Elvis has made more money dead than he ever made alive. You know what I'm saying? And
people suddenly thought I was intelligent after I died.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. So what can I say? I mean, hey, I saw Elvis, and I like some of his stuff. I never was a Elvis, freak or anything.
Oh.
Thank you very much.
Oh.
But Marilyn, after all these years, has still got that iconic thing going on, and it's just a big subject, and people have the picture on their wall of her dress being blown and those sexy legs and all this wonderful stuff. And I'll never forget the song Elton John did, Norma Jean, which is very
my God. And the most magnificent thing is that he also converted it for Princess Diana, who I absolutely love.
Yeah.
Can you imagine performing something you performed so many times before one way and doing it live at a funeral where you probably want to cry?
Well,
I mean, the man's amazing.
He was a friend of Princess Di.
Absolutely amazing. A real artist.
So in all the world, let's see, in all the world of reincarnation, we got about 15 minutes left here. And I want you to know I'm not debating you on what you are saying about your previous life. I'm trying to understand. Okay. So don't, I'm not trying to attack or anything like that. But if I don't ask questions, I can't understand.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I like
yeah.
this. I like this. This is fun for me.
Okay. So I'm not trying to catch you or anything like that. It's just genuine questions. When you bring up something, I'm still trying to get my head around certain things that's been said. You may not be able to ever explain it to me, and that's fine. Okay. I was born and raised in Alabama, and I'm slow. I admit that. Okay. So, you know, Alabama, we're like way back.
No, I really enjoyed your interview last week, so I can't believe that I'm doing this week. This is great.
Well,
See,
it's the same subject, and when you were going back and forth, it's like, well, I need to talk to you because.
But see, this happened, and I don't even have a wish machine, and this happened.
Yeah, well, because you're connected now to me, and I am the wish doctor. Okay?
Yeah, you are. Yeah. Thank you.
Bottom line is that the purpose of coming back, and is everybody reincarnated, or is there people still waiting for that second chance?
No.
Okay. Over in the chat box, I was hearing that there were some that have not yet been born that's still waiting in the spirit world or whatever. That's kind of, and some people are not going to like to hear this, but I've studied religion. It's kind of a Mormon teaching that we were in heaven as spirits, and we had this big conference up there, and we wanted to be more like God, who had a perfect body. So we, in this conference, we said, send us down to earth and let us try on a physical body and learn how to deal with it, and then you'll give us a planet, and we'll have our own, I hate to say it, but fiefdom somewhere down the road. So it goes into this question I've still got, and I even would question Kevin, but I'm not trying to make this about Kevin today. I'm trying to involve him in the conversation. But reconciling the reincarnation of all that time that you were dead. Now, whoever I'm communicating with in the chat box, whether it's Dave or whomever, suggested that that's a transition period. So in your case of Marilyn, then that transition period took a matter of months and months and months. If I were to say that I was reincarnated Aleister Crowley, it took 7 years, and I have no memory of anything between his death and my being born. And the same with you. The only thing that you've been able to present as far as Marilyn Monroe was the immediate moments of her death. After that initial period of death, you say you don't remember anything of those months subsequent to you being born.
No, I don't remember choosing.
Okay.
My family or my body or this or that.
and I'm not disputing that. I'm just having to try to understand what takes place there. Now, I know in the Christian world, when you talk about Jesus being dead for 3 days, I agree with Kevin on what he said the Bible teaches. And in doing that, as far as I'm concerned, the Bible could be wrong. Okay. I'm not one of those that believe in the infallibility of the word of the Bible, because I understand the background of the Bible. Okay. And what we didn't get into last week, and you may not be able to get into this, but I do want to ask this. Dave and I were going to talk about it. Just these shows, it's like we've already been on almost 2 hours. It goes, choo. But what in the world were we talking about that I wanted to hit on last week? I'm brain dead now. I'm tired. What was it? There was a subject we were going to cover, and we never got around to it. We're talking about reincarnation. I'm lost. I'm sorry. I was leading to it, and then my mind went, eep. Had a senior moment.
Well, I mean, I don't want to interrupt you, but if you don't know what you're saying, I do want to say, though, it's important to me to say that even though Marilyn's lifetime was the most recent, I remember other people. So it doesn't necessarily mean that what I'm doing right now is just completely, only about fulfilling what she needed.
Hey,
I have to be me
well, not
and
only that,
carry
but
them all.
what you're saying, that does bring about a profound statement that I did
Right.
not address last week. But if you've got more than one past life, then you're not simply Marilyn Monroe reincarnated. You're an accumulation of all these people going back hundreds of years.
Plus myself.
So there's
Plus
more
myself.
to you than Marilyn. Marilyn is just a piece of you.
Right.
And there's other pieces that came from Bobby Sue in the 40s or 30s, and however far goes back. Some people say that they were in Rome in the gladiator days, and on it goes. I just know that in a previous life, I was a sex symbol. Okay.
Did you enjoy it?
I'm still enjoying it.
Yeah. It has its moments.
Anyway, bottom line is that there's a lot of interesting things in this subject, and there's so much. Your level of understanding is going to be different than somebody else's level of understanding. Your personal experiences with it are going to be different than other people's personal experiences with it. At the end of this that we've shared or you've shared with us tonight, to sum it up, are you saying that when it comes to Marilyn Monroe, that she's part of you, but part of her energy could be over here in this person, and part of her energy, you could have shared reincarnations?
I never thought that before, so I don't know. It's just that I don't want to call other people liars. So instead of calling other people liars or delusional, I'm trying to figure this out.
Okay.
I don't want to make enemies because I don't want to ruin my current life trying to look back at my last life.
I love honest people, and it takes a very honest person to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're able to say, I don't know, that means I can trust you, because you're not trying to make something up to appease an answer.
I'm not. Okay. I can tell you, and it's like I said, I would rather tell you 3 things I'm sure of than 20 things to impress you.
Bingo. All right. So Kevin, in this time, you shared a little bit, but I've got to come back to you, and I've got to allow you some time to talk about reincarnation. You've not given your take on this and how you feel about this subject we've talked about for now, going into the end of our 4th hour on this subject.
Well, because I've not had any of these experiences. I've never, other than that dream I talked about last week, I've never had any kind of, and that I didn't have until a couple of years ago, but my whole life I've never had, the strong conviction of I've heard memories and things I can't explain from other people that may have lived before me, and I might have been them. I don't have any memories that I can't explain. So it's hard for me to say yay or nay. I don't close my mind off to it, but I'm not able to, prove or disprove otherwise. So I've never, my interest has always been in ghosts. I'm so focused on that. And sometimes I make it hard to say, well, there's ghosts, how's there reincarnation? There's reincarnation, how's there ghost? But there's a way you can, get them in tune with each other.
But, what you said, though, last week was interesting because it sounded like you were being shot at, and in your mind you thought, oh, this is how it feels. So even if that's all you know, you realize you can be on either end of a situation, and people who are empathetic towards others realize you can be on either end of a situation. So, I mean, maybe there was something in that, you remembered.
So, Kevin, going back to that story, when you got shot, what part of your body did it hit?
It hit me in the back of the head. It kept to the back glass and went to the back of my head.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. You are reincarnated.
No.
You've got the black hair. He's JFK. He was reliving the assassination. That's exactly where
Well,
JFK got.
Actually, I know someone who I think was Jack Kennedy. And if my second book ever is published, then you'll be able to read about that, because I do think I know Jack and Bobby Kennedy reincarnated during this lifetime.
That's why, I mean, and you know, let me tell you what, Kevin is a bit of a womanizer too. He gets all these,
Where are these women?
yeah, because he gets all these young actresses to autograph pictures for him all over the place, and he shows them off. These half naked.
You do know girls like dolls, right? Like a lot of girls like dolls and doll collections, right?
Yeah, but when they hear it's a guy collecting them, they get freaked out. What?
Michele, his house is a museum. It's not a
I believe you. That's very cool.
And it's not just dolls. It's not just dolls.
Look at this. Look at this. I got this at the powwow a few weeks ago. I think it's a fox.
I actually really like foxes.
Yeah.
They're cute.
Oh my goodness!
But that dream,
Michele, if people, the book is up there. Marilyn, not just another girl. The myth about sleeping nude is available on Amazon. You don't have a website per se, but how would people find you if they want to communicate with you? Now I'm being pressed by your good friends to ask about Timmy.
Oh my God. Well, I like trolls. I've always liked troll dolls. I like cute trolls, not scary trolls. So that's why I can relate to the doll thing, Kevin. I love trolls, and I literally have a whole bunch of trolls on this one side of my room here. And then my boyfriend's side is here, and it has no dolls in it. And yeah, so Timmy's a troll doll, and he voted today, and so I took a picture of him with his little "I voted" sticker and put it on Facebook. And I love him. He's my son.
All right. So where? How do people? If you want people to get a hold of you, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, I mean, I have a Michele M. Saumberfield YouTube channel, and also you can email me at mmsaumberfield@gmail.com, and I'm sure you have my name written under this somewhere, so if people don't know how to spell Saumberfield, they can find it.
It's been scrolling across the bottom of the screen the entire time.
Yeah, so because my name really is Michele Marie. I got the double M's naturally during this lifetime too. mmsaumberfield@gmail.com is my email, but my book is a lot about my current life, but it just talks about how I came to believe in reincarnation, and it talks about various past life memories, and you know.
So somebody just in the chat room here said voter fraud. I don't know what's going on, but that brought to mind a question. Can the
troll
trolls? I mean, voter fraud. So if you're Marilyn Monroe, do you get to vote twice?
No, just once.
Sorry, I had to ask.
Apparently, some dead people are getting ballots in the mail.
Oh gosh, I don't even hear that. I'll just be glad when all this is over.
I just want people to be safe in the street, and I just want people to not be violent. I want people to work things out, no matter who wins.
Michele, have you ever studied history?
I know.
Humans have always sucked. I have younger people say, "Look how bad we've gotten." It's like, do you remember the Civil War? Do you remember the Inquisition?
Yeah.
Humans have always sucked. Okay,
Yeah.
Good to be hopeful and hope. You got
to be positive, right?
Positive.
I'm positive it ain't gonna get better. But unlike Gandhi, be the change you want to see in the world.
You have that poster, don't you? Yeah.
But I'm also pragmatic. It's like, why do you have a belief system of eternity? Because you know it ain't gonna get better here.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of hell, I think of hell as being whatever you have to go through on earth, like, physical pain or mental anguish. Reincarnation really changed my viewpoint of hell, you
Yeah.
know, and
When I think of eternity, this life becomes nothing. I don't care who becomes president. I don't care what happens to any of it, because in eternity, this is nothing. And really, that's my view, because this is nothing. If I believe in eternity, I'll never remember this, because this is not even a speck of time. So that's the way I've always viewed my religious beliefs, and that's the way I've always viewed it. I think that's why Jesus said, don't worry about today, don't worry about what you're going to eat and drink, to put God's kingdom first, and that sort of thing. Jesus was homeless. The religious leaders hated him, and the government put him to death. So I'm following good footsteps. The religious leaders hate me, and the government wants to put me to death. So if you believe in eternity, this is nothing. I'll never even remember Kevin. I mean, it's like, gosh, he'll be.
And it would be interesting to know, because you guys kind of seem bonded. It'd be interesting to know if you two have had past lives together.
We hardly know each other.
I have seen
In public,
you seem to really like him a lot, because I have seen your other videos. I looked at your other videos all this week, and I'm like, well, maybe he was your like son or something during a past life. I don't know.
Kidding me? I was giving him an option.
Larry and Curly.
I don't know.
If Kevin had been my child, I'd be promoting abortion right now. Trust me.
Oh, you would not.
I hope I put you in a nursing home in that time.
No.
Michele, it has been very much a pleasure to talk to you, and
thank you so much.
Really appreciate people go to Amazon and read that book, because we talked about reincarnation in big terms tonight. We didn't just talk about Marilyn Monroe. I have so many questions, and there's so little time to get it all in. Maybe what I'd like to do, and it would take 4 hours. Y'all need to plan an all-night session with you and Dave. What's Dave's partner's name? Carla. Yeah. Carla. I mean, the three of y'all on here. There you go. I think getting all three of you on here at the same time would be a wonderful thing. Mm-hmm. And then we'll dig deeper into this reincarnation thing. Okay. People, it's a fascinating subject. People are interested in it. It don't matter to me what people believe. I just think it's, like I said, my entire being has been to delve into belief systems, and none of them scared me. I've read the Satanic Bible. I wasn't scared of it. I'm not, I believe that if I'm grounded in truth, I shouldn't be scared. So I have no fear of any of that stuff. But anyway, thank you so much. Thank you. This lady here has wrote a book I have not personally read myself, Not Just Another Girl, The Myth About Sleeping Nude, Marilyn Monroe. And you can find that on Amazon.com. Stay tuned, folks. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Join us on Facebook, Abnormal Alabama, because I'm going to get you and Dave and Carla on here one night. We'll need 4 hours at least for that show, I think. Well, yeah. I don't know if they'll agree to do it. I'm just suggesting this. So Dave and them may not want to ever talk to me again. I don't know.
I will be IMing them probably within the next few minutes, and
okay. Well, let me know if they may not, after tonight, they may say no.
No, I don't think so.
Thank you so much.
And, thank you. Bye, Kevin. Bye, Kelsey.
Peace and love.